Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I am the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight are two of our students who I will let say hi and introduce themselves, and we'll start with Louise.
I'm Luis. I'm a chemical engineering student at UMD working here at the Planetarium.
Great. You're muted. Did you mute your mic again?
It doesn't say he's muted.
I know.
It's weird.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I can.
Okay. Sorry, my mic was acting weird. Hi, I'm Brayden. I'm a music education student here at UMD.
All right, so tonight we have our monthly constellation show where we'll take you through the stars and constellations that you can find up in the month of November and tell some of the stories behind them as well. Now, before I jump into that, as always, if you have any questions throughout the show tonight, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Louise, are you going to be keeping an eye for me? I forgot to ask you beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
Louise is going to be keeping an
I'll
eye on
keep an
those
eye.
for me. Will let me know if questions come up. Otherwise, we'll also have time at the end for questions as well. All right, and with that, let me get switched over for our star show. Okay. So for anyone who has not seen any of our virtual constellation shows, to do this, we use a program called Stellarium. It's basically like a planetarium on your computer. You tell it date, time, and location, and it shows you what the sky looks like. Now, since we are located here in Duluth, Minnesota, that's what I have our star show set up for. But as long as you're anywhere in the northern hemisphere, you're going to see a night sky that's pretty similar to this. The closer you are to the equator, the more different your sky may be. But if you're ever curious on how different it is or what things would actually look like for you if you're not in Duluth, you can always try Stellarium out for yourself. It's completely free to download, very easy to use, and I've left a link for it down in the video description. So we are all set up here for Duluth right at 7 o'clock, our current time. And we can definitely tell that we are getting into the winter months, late fall into winter, because the sun is already set. Looking over in the southwest, you may see this one bright light very low in the southwestern sky. That's actually the planet Venus. Although it won't be up for too much longer, but it will be around all month long. So you'll be able to check that out anytime this month in the southwest sky right after sunset. We also have still hanging out with us over in the south two more planets. We have Jupiter and Saturn. And they'll be visible all month as well from sunset until about midnight. But we are here to look at some stars. So I'm going to turn us over to the north where we'll get started. The north is always a really great place to start your stargazing and constellation hunting because for most of us who live in the northern hemisphere, these constellations that I'm going to show you are up pretty much all year round. So they're always going to be there when you go out, which makes a really good place to start to kind of give yourself a baseline, kind of an identifier, and then you can actually use these constellations in the north to help you find other stars and constellations in the sky as well. So we're going to get started with probably the most famous group of stars in the northern sky, and it is this group of 7 stars right here. Now, these 7 stars are commonly known as the Big Dipper, where we have the handle and the cup of the Big Dipper. Although I have to tell you, the Big Dipper is actually not a constellation. It's what we call an asterism. It's a smaller grouping of stars within a larger constellation. So these 7 bright stars are actually a part of the larger constellation, the Greek constellation of Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. So to see the bear, we have to take that handle and actually turn it into a tail. And then we have back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. And I'll do that one more time. We have tail, back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. And that is Ursa Major, the big bear. Now, the Greeks do have more than one bear in the sky in the north. So the next one is Ursa Minor, or the little bear. And we can actually use the Big Dipper to help us find it. So we're going to start with the Big Dipper again. We're going to follow the handle into the cup. We'll find the front two stars in the cup of the Big Dipper. And these are the pointer stars, because if you connect them in a line and follow that line, they point you to this bright star here. This star is Polaris, also known as the North Star. And a lot of people think that, the North Star is very well known and famous because it's the brightest star in the sky. And that's actually not the case. The brightest star in the sky is the star Sirius, which we get a glimpse of in the winter time. So it'll be a little bit later that we'll see it. But the reason Polaris, or the North Star, was so important and why it's so well known is it's the only star in the sky that doesn't move. So if I fast forward time here, you can see that all of the other stars in the sky move around, except for Polaris. So it's always right here, right in the north. So it's a great navigation tool, because if you can find the North Star, you know what direction north is, and therefore you know what all of your other directions are as well. All right, I'm just going to very quickly reset us back to our current time, and we'll head back again. We have pointer stars, point to Polaris here. Polaris is the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. And so we have the handle and the cup. You will notice that the stars in the Little Dipper are much fainter than the stars in the Big Dipper, and that makes it very difficult to see unless you have super dark skies. Our Little Dipper is also the Greek Ursa Minor, the little bear. And so we have the long bear tail, little bear body, legs, and the head would be about here. Not really looking like a bear there, definitely more like a squirrel. But the Greeks did have kind of a story to explain why these bears had long tails. And it starts with the king of the Greek god Zeus, who had a bad habit of leaving his home up on Mount Olympus and making friends with women on Earth who weren't his wife, Hera. Well, that's exactly what's happened. Zeus is down on Earth. He's made friends with this woman named Callisto. Hera comes down and is just so mad at Zeus for constantly doing this that before she drags him back up to Mount Olympus, she decides to teach him a lesson by turning Callisto into a bear. So Zeus gets dragged off. Poor Callisto is now a bear, and what none of them realize at first is that Callisto actually has a son named Argus. And after realizing that his mom hasn't come home, Argus starts to get worried, and so he goes into the surrounding woods to look for her, thinking that maybe she got lost or hurt in the woods. While he's searching for her, he comes across this big, beautiful bear that he doesn't know is actually his mom. And so he draws his weapon to protect himself, worried that this bear is going to attack him. Well, at the same time, Zeus has come back down to Earth to kind of check on Callisto. He sees Argus, sees bear Callisto, realizes that Argus is her son, and starts to feel pretty bad because Zeus can't undo Hera's curse. He can't turn Callisto back human. So what he decides to do instead is turn Argus into a bear as well. And then to kind of extra make it up to them, he decides that he is going to place them into the sky where they can live together forever. I mean, they'll be bears forever, but at least they'll get to live together. And to get them up into the sky, what he ends up doing is picking them up by their bear tails, spinning them around, and flinging them up into the sky. And it's that process of being spun and flung that stretched out those bear tails. And so we have the big bear here is Callisto, the mama bear. and the little bear is her son Arcus. So that is the story of the bears and why they have long tails. All right. So the next constellation we're going to find actually lives or starts out in between our big bear and little bear. We're going to take those pointer stars again. But instead of going all the way to Polaris, we're actually going to stop at the first star we cross. This star is the end of the tail of Draco the Dragon. So we have his tail, long winding tail up to his big full belly, up to his eyes and mouth, and he's breathing fire all over this portion of the sky. And so we have Draco the Dragon here. All right. I'm going to turn us over. Let's go to the south because I've done a lot in the east lately. So let's look over in the south for a very interesting group of stars. So if we look in the south where Jupiter and Saturn currently are, you may also notice that there is a set of stars that make kind of a lopsided triangle. This lopsided triangle is the constellation of Capricorn, which is supposed to be a half fish, half goat type of situation. So the like pointy end of the triangle is like the fish tail, and then we have like the fish head, or not fish head, sorry, goat head and like front legs. So we have kind of Capricorn, half goat, half fish here. And this is a really fun story. So this being, his name is Pan, and he actually started out fully goat. Okay. Well, Pan was helping to battle the Titans, and he had this one monster that just was chasing after him, and he was trying to flee, to run away and escape. But it didn't matter how far he ran, how fast he ran, that monster was always right on his heels. Well, Pan ended up running so far that he ran all the way to the coast, to the ocean, and he thought, okay, I'm going to jump in the water, and I'm going to swim away and just hope that this monster can't swim. Unfortunately for Pan, it could. So poor little goat Pan is swimming away with this monster again right behind him. And it's about this time that the other gods start to notice what's going on and the struggle that Pan's having. And to give him some extra help, they turn his back half into a fish so that he could swim fast enough to finally escape the monster. And there you have it. We end up with a half goat, half fish type of creature here. It's a very interesting one. All right. So also over in this portion of the sky, if we look at that triangle again, and we take the point of that triangle, that's actually going to point us to the hips of our next constellation. And this is Aquarius. So I kind of picture him as if he's kneeling. So we have like one bent leg here with his foot on the ground. We have another bent leg here with his knee on the ground. And then we would have his body and then the pitcher of water that he's carrying. Because he is the water bearer to the gods. This art doesn't draw it exactly the way that I see it, but that's a common thing with constellation art. There's so many different ways that you can interpret this group of stars to try and make the picture or the image that it's, quote unquote, supposed to be. So Aquarius's name is actually Ganymede. And he was actually a farm boy who lived on a farm with his parents who were a bit older, so he was the one primarily taking care of the farm. Zeus, though, kind of really admired Ganymede and wanted to bring him up to Mount Olympus to live with the gods and kind of, work for them. But Ganymede at first just did not want to leave because he didn't want to leave his parents alone because they couldn't take care of the farm without him. So what Zeus ended up doing is leaving behind a couple of very, very smart, intelligent dogs to help out around the farm. That way his parents would be taken care of, the farm would be taken care of, and Ganymede would be able to come up to Mount Olympus. And that's what happened. He ended up on Mount Olympus as the water bearer to the gods. All right. So heading on over to the east now, east-northeast, we have a group of constellations here that we've talked a lot about over the past couple of months. This is kind of the big epic story in the fall sky. And so we will tell that one again tonight, since I have told a few other different ones as well. So, to find our first constellation, we're going to take those pointer stars on the Big Dipper. And this time we're going to go past Polaris into the Milky Way, where we find this W shape. This W, to the Greeks, is the Queen Cassiopeia. Now, Cassiopeia is not alone. She does live up here with the king, King Cepheus. And he is set kind of up and to the left from her. We have this triangle attached to a square. And this is the throne of King Cepheus. Now, it's kind of interesting to try and see how they look. We kind of picture Cassiopeia as if we're getting a profile view. And so this is her head, so she'd be looking off this way. And then King Cepheus, we're seeing kind of face on. So his head would be about here, and this is his throne that he's sitting in, and Cassiopeia is also sitting in a throne. Now, the two have a daughter named Andromeda, and we can find her if we go back to Cassiopeia here, and we take this rightmost V and turn that into an arrow. It points us to the belt of Andromeda. And so we have her head, her arms are outstretched, her body, and then her legs come down this way. That is Andromeda. So that's a royal family, the Queen Cassiopeia, King Cepheus, and Princess Andromeda. Now, Princess Andromeda is in a bit of a trouble. She is currently chained to a rock in the middle of the ocean, awaiting a giant sea monster that's coming her way to eat her. And all of this is because her mom and dad made the gods and goddesses up on Mount Olympus very angry, and this is their punishment. Their punishment is to watch their daughter die to the hands of this giant sea monster. Well, thankfully for Miss Andromeda, we have a couple of other characters over here who are actually going to save the day. So just below Cassiopeia, this next group of stars here, is our hero of the story, Perseus. So we have kind of his body, legs, head, and then his outstretched arm that is holding the head of Medusa. Because that's kind of Perseus' claim to fame. He's the guy who killed Medusa. Now, Perseus isn't alone. He has his faithful companion, the great square, which is supposed to be the flying horse, Pegasus. So, Andromeda, chained up to this rock. Perseus is flying home on Pegasus after defeating Medusa. And as he's flying home, he hears these cries for help from Andromeda. Looks down, sees her chained to the rock, sees the giant sea monster heading her way, and goes, oh, maybe I should help. But he doesn't swoop in right away because he wants to kind of plan out the best way to do this. And that's when he remembers he has the head of Medusa. Now, if you don't know, Medusa has this magic power where when you look her in the eye, she turns to stone. So, what Perseus did was pull out Medusa's head, point it at the giant sea monster, That sea monster turned to stone, sunk down to the bottom of the ocean, and he was then free to swoop down and unchain Andromeda, and they both hopped on Pegasus and flew off to live happily ever after. Unfortunately, that means our king and queen did not actually endure their punishment because their daughter was saved. So the gods and goddesses decide that the another way to punish the king and queen would be to chain them up into the night sky, where they would be imprisoned there forever. And so there you have it. Now, this region of sky is also really cool because it has the most distant object that you can see with your naked eye without needing a telescope. And so if we go back to that W of Cassiopeia here, and again take that rightmost V and follow that arrow, before we get to Andromeda's belt, we actually see this little fuzzy patch here. This fuzzy patch is the Andromeda Galaxy, an entirely separate galaxy from our own that sits about 2.5 million light years away, and is in fact the only galaxy, I've got the hiccups, the only galaxy that you can see with your naked eye without a telescope. Now, if you do have a telescope, you'll be able to see it in a little bit more detail. Not quite as good as this. This is definitely something that you would need an image and multiple pictures to get to see this beautiful view. But this is what the Andromeda Galaxy looks like. It is a spiral galaxy, just like ours. So it's shaped like a disc and has those beautiful spiral arms. These dark bands that you're seeing, those are dust clouds and dense gas clouds. And in fact, when we look at our own galaxy, you can see that as well, especially over here. You see that we have these dark dust and dense gas lanes too. So our galaxy is very much like the Andromeda Galaxy, except the Andromeda Galaxy is actually bigger than ours. It has about twice as many stars as we do. All right. So I'm going to fast forward time here, because with a little bit of time, oh, I saw that question. Why are the clouds, oh, that's a good question. Why are the dust clouds bright? So they're not all bright. What you're seeing is in the bright patches, you're seeing starlight within the galaxy that's bouncing off of the gas and dust. Kind of like how your headlights can bounce off of the fog and make the clouds of the fog look bright. And then the darker areas are where things are just a bit denser, and so the light can't really penetrate and can't come back out to our eyes. And so we just don't have a lot of light coming from there. And the same thing for our galaxy as well. What we're seeing is some brighter gas clouds where, again, it's reflected starlight, and then some areas that are too dense for the lights to make it back out. And so you don't end up getting any light from there except for from stars that are closer to us than that gas cloud is. All right. Okay, so let's keep going forward in time. Because we have coming up in the east our winter stars. Now we're starting to see a few of them right around sunset. But as you can see, to get the full glory of the winter sky, we've got to go until about midnight. And so I don't want to ruin our future constellation shows and spoil these stories too easily, but just a teaser for the upcoming months. We do have a wonderful group of very bright, fun constellations that are up in our winter sky, including probably one of the more famous constellations, Orion the Hunter. All right, I'm going to let time keep going. We'll watch those stars move. Just before the sun comes up, we're seeing some spring constellations. So, winter is coming, but that means spring is, right behind it. And we have the sun finally rising up in the east, and I will pause time there, and we will conclude our star show with that. All right. Let me unpin myself. There we go. All right. I know I saw the couple of questions that did come in. If anyone else has any other questions, now is a great time to leave them down in the comments. And while we wait, I actually have something that I want to show everyone. Some of you may have seen it because we shared it just all over the place. But a couple nights ago, we got an absolutely spectacular Aurora display. And I can't help it. I have to show it off. So let me get this set up. All right, so for those of you who don't know, we have a camera set up at the end of the Gunflint Trail at the Chickawauk Museum and Nature Center. This camera runs from about 30 minutes before sunset to 30 minutes after sunrise, taking images about once a minute. And it's there for many reasons. One, these are some of the darkest skies anywhere. And so we love kind of showcasing the beauty of these dark skies. But being further north, it also very frequently experiences great auroras. And the other night was just spectacular. And I'm just going to let this play because I have seen this video like hundreds of times at this point, and I'm still just amazed. I love it. It's just so pretty. And those purples, like I was not expecting those reds and purples. So pretty. All right. So I just had to share that because I mean that's probably the most spectacular aurora display I've seen, and that's near us and a camera that we had a part in getting up and running. If you're interested, this camera, we do have a Facebook page for it. It's the Chickawauk All Sky Camera. So you can go and follow that, and at the Facebook page, we post regular updates if there's any really great things that the camera is capturing, and you also get the time lapses from the prior night are updated or posted every day as well. All right. So, not seeing any questions. I'll still give it another minute or so, and let me tell you what's coming up over the next week. So on Wednesday, we are going to be doing Star Wars Fact or Fiction. We're just taking a look at the Star Wars universe and what is based off of real science and what is definitely more fiction. And then next Saturday, Eli is going to be doing a talk all about intermediate mass black holes, which is actually his research that he is conducting here at UMD. It's very cool stuff that he's working on. Super proud of him, and so he's going to kind of share that with everyone. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. We will still continue to stream regularly Wednesdays and Saturdays at 7 p.m. And yeah, we hope to see you again next time. Until then, have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll hopefully see you again. Bye, everyone.